Hi everyone, my name is Lili and I'm here to talk to you today about becoming a technical services architect. The key takeaways I would like you to have from this is an insight into being a technical services architect, an understanding of what the difference is between traditional software engineer and a technical services architect, and the skills and background that we'll look for in candidates so that they succeed in this particular role. So first of all, what do I do as a technical services architect? Well, first of all, this role is somewhat part of the sales part of the organizations where we try to sell our services to customers, but it also overlaps with the engineering side. So as part of this role, I build custom tools and features for our customers. At the moment, I'm doing that with JavaScript and TypeScript programming languages. I work closely with the sales teams to help customers try our product and make sure that we can show them how it might work for their specific needs. So currently, I'm working in a cybersecurity startup called Sneak. We have an online platform, and for smaller customers, it is easy for them to sign up and start using our service all by themselves. However, for a large organization, which we would call enterprise organizations, when they have 10,000 developers or when they want to onboard a huge amount of users and a huge amount of projects onto the platform, they need some help. But before we even get there, they also need to know that the custom setup that they might have, the tools that they're using, and the way that they want to work is possible with our product. So before they buy, they may have an extended period, a trial period with us, during which we will try and show them that we have features that can support their unique needs. And this is where I come in. If the project doesn't do something out of the box to show value to them, I may need to work with that customer to identify what kind of tools or how we could onboard them and set them up so that they get the maximum value from our product. So this is my interactions with the sales team. I also work closely with the support team so that when a customer that is trying us raises an issue because something didn't work as expected, we can help identify a solution. If they're not a customer just yet, they have slightly different needs. They may have a lot more questions rather than reporting actual bugs, and they may need more special treatment so that they understand that the way our product works is indeed going to work for them, or maybe it won't, and that's important to find out as well. So in this role, also work closely with engineering and product. So due to lots of interactions that I get with customers, we hear a lot of feedback from them. We also get to see firsthand how they end up using our product. And this is really valuable feedback and information to take back to product and engineering to influence what kind of features we build next. For example, if you have a feature that helps you invite new users to your team, a customer might have a million users if they're really, really big. Then doing so via the UI might not be feasible for them at all. And watching them and understanding their needs, that maybe they want to automate this via some kind of API or using a special tool or some kind of integration, this information becomes really important to take and feed back to product and engineering so that the features they're building consider this types of use cases. This also means that internally, my team is kind of an advocate or an evangelist to share different experiences from the customers, especially the enterprise customers, how they are experiencing the platform, how they're experiencing the product, things that are not working very well for them because perhaps it was built with a smaller customer in mind, and also any kind of performance issues or usability issues, because there's absolutely nothing worse than clicking a button and then waiting for 3 minutes for something to happen. And that could be the reality for somebody that's really, really large if the way that the features were built has not considered that kind of use case. So, what skills are needed for a role like this? One of the most important skills is communication, because you will be a lot on customer calls, interacting with customers directly. It is really important to be able to communicate with them clearly, especially when a customer is unhappy. You want to be able to use communication to turn an unhappy customer into a happy customer. Being organized and self motivated is very important as well. I work alone quite a lot. The things that I'm building tend to be very individual, and I work by myself. So I need to be able to listen to the customer needs, design a solution, and then go ahead and build it. But whilst I'm doing all this, I may be interrupted quite a lot. I may be needed for a customer call here and there. Some days I may not be able to do it at all. So being organized is really important so that you always know where you are, what you're doing. If a customer asks you a question, then you need to get back to them. You can't forget about it, otherwise, it'll give them a bad experience with you. So you want to be able to organize your day, organize your time, and make sure that anything that's a small task or a question from a customer gets addressed in a timely manner. Architect implies that there needs to be previous coding experience. As an architect, you are not only building, but you are designing solutions from scratch. So that tends to be a progression from just building the solutions first. So previous engineering and coding experience is key. However, the programming language, it can be any. It is applicable that you understand how to build things in one language and then you could learn a different language. Empathy and inclusion is really important. You will be interacting with customers from different countries, different cultures, different backgrounds, and therefore being able to empathize with the different backgrounds that they've come from, empathize with their needs as well. If they are unhappy with the product, you need to be able to understand where they're coming from and empathize with them on that as well, and then work with them to try and see if you can come to a solution that will make them happy to use your product and improve your product so that it works for them as well. Being a good listener is important here too. You may have a frustrated customer where something has not been working for them for a long time. And even though you are improving things, you might not be improving them fast enough. And they might be considering terminating the contract with you. So you could be having calls where a customer is unhappy, they might be threatening to leave. So being able to listen to their needs, understand what it is that they need in order for them to want to stay with you and continue their contract. And then also work with them to come up with a solution that both of you would be happy with. So perhaps you would agree on a future date by which a certain issue will be resolved, and that might make them happy. Motivation to learn and improve yourself is really important in this role as well. Whilst you're building custom tools, you never really know what technology you might have to use. If a customer is using certain tools already, when they want to integrate with you, you might have to first learn about their setup, how they work, the different tools that they're using, and then understand how that might fit in with your product. So there is a lot of learning, there's a lot of debugging, and you need to be able to go and find that information by yourself. Maybe it's an online course, Googling something, but just be motivated enough to sort of get started and find the answers that you need is an important skill. Mentoring as well. As a technical services architect, you are, in a way, a product expert. When you jump on the call with the customer, you know a lot about the product and how it works, and in enough technical detail as well. When somebody new starts on your team, they will require a lot of help from you for you to mentor them so that they can get up to speed and be successful by themselves as well. It is quite an individual role. So it is important for you to be good at what you do and be able to learn, but it's also important for you to be able to help mentor your colleagues to be just as good. So overall, the team can be strong. Quite often, when you jump on a customer call, they're having a problem, they have an issue, and ability to troubleshoot and debug it live with them on a call is really important here as well. And that's something that starts with you being able to troubleshoot your own problems. So, as you are building some kind of tool for them, you might come across some issues and you'll need to find the root cause of that issue. So, again, these are skills like being able to Google for the right things, knowing when to ask for help and who might be the right person to ask for help from as well is important. And last but not least, patience. As I mentioned, working with customers can be tough. They may be unhappy with what is on the table. They may not want to stay in the contract with you anymore. So, being patient, being able to listen is going to be very important here to save any kind of troubled relationship. So, services architect can sound quite similar to a software engineer. So, I wanted to touch on the differences between the two. So, as a technical services architect, you design and build custom solutions. So, you would be doing that alone quite often with maybe some input from the team and others, but you would be solely responsible for delivering it all the way through. However, as a software engineer, you would be working as part of a team that helps design and build this. And your team would also have a product manager and perhaps even a designer. So, as a team, you would come up with the feature together, you would build it together and deliver it together. So, the technical services architect, you'd be joining a lot of customer calls. You will be the technical advisor and you will be present during the sales cycle. And the sales cycle is the time that you are communicating with the customer up until they sign a contract. And then again, when the contract is up for a renewal. So, when the contract is up for a renewal, you need to yet again sell yourself to the customer so that they go with you instead of a competitor. As a software engineer, you won't be speaking to customers as much. You may occasionally jump on the call if you're building a feature and you want some feedback from somebody in particular. But you won't have the responsibility of trying to show them that the product works for them, because here you have a very focused topic where you're building a feature that you know that they want and you just want to get some feedback. So next, as a technical services architect, you will be identifying common themes that come up as issues from customers in different calls and bringing them back as feedback to product and engineering. And that's because speaking to so many different customers and seeing how they use your product is really valuable. And you are in a unique position then to take that feedback and make sure that it makes its way to the relevant people that are building those features. As a software engineer, you don't have that kind of overview as you are working on a very specific set of features, and that's what you're focused on. Technical services architects are flexible in the kind of work that we do, so we can change focus from building one thing to another because it's become more important. It might help more customers, or perhaps because you want to save a particular deal from falling through. As a software engineer, you will be working on a predefined roadmap that has been decided for that quarter. So everything is planned out at least 3 months in advance. Each team will know what they're working on. There may be an occasional interruption, but you are not free to decide that this feature is, not worth building right now. You will have a lot more commitments and you will most likely be sticking to the roadmap that you've done. As a technical services architect, you are an expert on most features of the product that you're working with. As you are in front of customers, you will be asked a lot of questions about every aspect of the product, and you need to be able to answer them. But as a software engineer, you will likely be focusing on a very particular area of the product, and that will be your expertise. So you are a deep expert in that area, but you may not know other parts of the product, how they work, or how they get used by different customers. And again, as a technical services architect, you will need to also understand what tools the customers use, how they use your product, and the different ways that they like to work, because everybody is really different. Every big company has their own way of working. And when they buy a new tool, they want you to fit in into that way of working. But as a software engineer, you don't need to know about all of those different types. You may be asked to build a particular integration, but you don't need to understand in too much detail how the customers want to use you or why they need it in that particular way. And lastly, I wanted to touch on how did I get here? I did not just land in this role. I did study computer science. However, at the end of that, I ended up doing some thinking, and I wasn't sure that I wanted to become a software engineer. I didn't like working with Java, which is what I studied at university. So I happened to get invited to an interview for a trading software company where the role sounded like it might have a little bit of coding. It was for an onboarding and integrations engineer, and so I took that. It was mostly doing customer support and helping them onboard onto the platform. So it was a lot of customer interactions, but very little engineering, very little coding. After that, I moved roles, and again, I wasn't sure what to do. I thought I'd double down on the fact that I spent a lot of time talking to customers. So I became a technical account manager where I help cultivate a relationship with the customer as well as continue giving them some technical support. And after that, I decided that I didn't want to work in finance anymore. And I was looking to join tech, and I started to learn web development because I thought maybe that's something I would enjoy: JavaScript, HTML, CSS. And that's when I became a technical project manager at a startup where I was working closely with engineers. And at that company, I was able to do a little bit of coding, but there wasn't a lot of time for me to do that. And as I got better slowly with time, I started looking for an actual software engineer position using JavaScript. I got lucky and I got my first role at a digital agency. And within a year, I became a technical lead, leading a team of engineers. And we were working on building up beauty brand websites like Sally Hansen and Max Factor. A lot of them are very similar, reusing the same kind of base, reusing a lot of the components. So you're kind of putting things together. And that was really fun and enjoyable. But after a while, it started to feel kind of the same, and I wanted to try something different. So I ended up joining a cybersecurity startup, Sneak, which is where I am now as a software engineer. And within 6 months, I started managing people again. So I had a team of engineers that I was leading, and I was focused on a particular product areas. And after some time, I was wondering if I wanted or if I could to again get closer to customers, because that's something that I did miss from my early days. Being close to customers means that you get to hear exactly what they're looking for and what they need. And then you can also feed that back and therefore build the right things. When you are just building things, sometimes you could be missing the reasons why you're building that, why you were asked to do it a certain way. And for me, I really like knowing exactly what the need is as before I go and build something. And this is how I ended up being a technical services architect. It is a new kind of field in sales engineering. So it's being an engineer within a sales organization. And this is a role that gives me both the flexibility of spending a lot of time with customers and understanding their needs, as well as then engineering and building the solutions for them. So I get the best of both worlds, which works really well for me. And that's it. Thank you so much. I hope this gave you a good insight. Thanks.